The Dreamcore aesthetic is something you'll find a lot of on the internet nowadays. My TikTok account and even this YouTube channel have gained lots of attention for my Dreamcore content. Because it's kind of a new thing, or at least only started gaining notoriety recently, I want to make this video on what the whole Dreamcore thing is all about for beginners or people who just don't know. So what is Dreamcore? Dreamcore is an aesthetic, and I'd even say it's an art form. It's supposed to represent the type of randomness and weirdness of things you would experience in your dreams. It typically uses liminal spaces as a sort of base to whatever will be edited or added onto it. Liminal spaces are places that feel very familiar and surreal. For example, this here is a liminal space. Going to birthday parties at places like Chuck E. Cheese's and various arcades in your youth might make this feel very familiar to you, despite you having never actually been here. One of my friends who I was showing this to says she doesn't understand the photo and gets nothing from it because she was kind of sheltered as a kid. So if that's the case for you, maybe this feels more familiar. See, it's kind of a generic living room that could remind you of either your own living room in the house you grew up in, or a living room at a friend's house that you frequented. Liminal spaces are supposed to be nostalgic but always empty, as though you're revisiting somewhere you've been before just like you would in a dream. One thing Dreamcore centers around in general is familiarity. You can't really psychologically picture places that you've never seen or been to without using mental images of real places that exist put together. Whether you saw some place in a video game or movie, you can't create something in your mind without using anything you've ever seen before. You know, your dreams are composed of places you've been to and are familiar with. Sometimes they get a little warped because dreams do that. Dreams warp and distort things you're familiar with and blend them together. These are some common tropes in Dreamcore that I should point out. Most of them are just kind of nonsensical things made to be as weird as the dreams that you have, but some actually have purpose and a place. So the common things are rainbows, orbs of light, early internet stuff, but rather than fake 90s things, which pretty much sums up the whole vaporwave aesthetic. It leans more toward Frutiger Arrow from the early to mid 2000s. Lots of us grew up with this style being prevalent on the internet, so it's part of the whole nostalgia factor that pretty much all Dreamcore posts have in common. Lines of cryptic text like this: "I must escape the simulation. Don't you wonder what's inside?" That was probably very cheesy, but these cryptic messages are also supposed to be familiar, whether they're things that you've heard before in your life or things you may have said or thought. It's typically something personal. Again, this is because dreams mix things you may have seen, heard, or thought of in your life. Sometimes the lines of text seem as though they're trying to confront or cope with trauma, and this goes into the whole separate trauma core aesthetic, which focuses on just that. There's often these silhouettes. Your dreams are not always empty like these liminal spaces, and that's why a lot of Dreamcore posts have these, black or white shadows of people. Because the maker of the Dreamcore post doesn't know you personally, these shadowy figures are supposed to represent the people in your life who you might see in dreams. And it's perfect because sometimes when your dreams are inconsistent, the people may change. Just last night, actually, I had this dream where I was hanging out with two of my friends, and one of them, in the middle of the dream, just sort of turned into my other friend without me realizing it or knowing it at all, until I woke up and thought about it and examined the whole dream. Plenty of liminal space photos used to make Dreamcore posts are compressed and grainy or are in low quality. This can easily represent your memories being a bit distorted as you age, and also how photos of old things you remember are more grainy and lower quality. And then there's the very common eyes with wings, and then it just sort of became eyes everywhere in general. These could be representing angels. Biblically accurate angels are not people with white robes and halos. Well, some of them are, but in the book of Ezekiel, other types of angels are described as eyes with wings everywhere, or wings with eyes everywhere, something like that. It's very weird. I think the eyes are just kind of the element of randomness mixed in because dreams are random, and that's why eyes are on everything in Dreamcore posts now, like mushrooms and stuff. It could also represent the people in your life watching you grow or change. And see, there's the thing. People try to derive meaning from their dreams, but some dreams are just random. And this goes into Dreamcore as well. Some pieces are deep with profound meanings behind them, while some are just really random. Just like dreams, they're all open to interpretation. Some aesthetic nerds, which I can't believe is a real thing I'm saying, argue over the difference between Dreamcore and Weirdcore, like what came first and what's what. Weirdcore is kind of like Dreamcore but isn't as linear. While Dreamcore centers around the idea of dreams, Weirdcore is just weird. It takes the weird things from Dreamcore and makes them weirder, or rather focuses on those weird things specifically. Then there's the music related to Dreamcore. Who decides what songs meet that aesthetic and which ones don't? What decides that? Well, it's kind of up to interpretation. Some of the common ones are Warm Nights by Zori, 647 by Instapendo, Numbers by Temporex, and I'd Rather Sleep by Caro Caro Bonito. The first two are just kind of warped and weird. They kind of sound disorienting and confusing. Dreamcore usually uses elements of confusion, disorientation, dread, and disassociation because dreams sometimes give off these feelings. The second two songs were more nostalgic. They sound like songs that you'd hear from kids' cartoons when you were younger or something like that, or maybe amusement parks. Whenever Dreamcore is posted anywhere, I always see people comment Backrooms on everything, as though any liminal space has to do with the Backrooms. Oh no, now I'm sounding like an aesthetic nerd. Oh well, at least it's better than a font nerd.
Yeah, Comic Sans.
So I'll just set the record straight, yo. The Backrooms started as a liminal space photo created on 4chan of these yellow walls with fluorescent lights, and then some kid named Kane Pixels did 3D modeling and created a whole horror series about it on YouTube that's actually really amazing and fun to watch. I'd highly recommend checking it out. Because his series blew up so hard, for good reason, it got plastered everywhere. And now you got this trend where different people take their own liminal space photos and create their own Backrooms level. I still see TikToks using random liminal photos like, this here is level 69 of the Backrooms, and if you eat a purple crayon, you get taken back a level and the doo-doo monster is going to come out and eat you. These random things are not part of the actual Backrooms series by Kane Pixels, nor the original photo on 4chan. But this trend has caused a lot of confusion to the common man over what the difference is between all liminal spaces and just the Backrooms specifically. Now, on every liminal or Dreamcore post I make, I always get all these comments like, oh, it's the Backrooms. So in short, Dreamcore is an art form or aesthetic that uses warped and distorted photos of nostalgic places to match the warped and distorted phenomena you'd experience in dreams. Nostalgia is an element heavily used in it, with anomalous edits representing thoughts and ideas you've had, things you've heard or said before, people in your life, and just pure randomness in general. So I hope that explained what Dreamcore was. Alright, laters everybody.